We like to think of TraxionGG as a fairly positive space to talk about the good things in sim racing, all the great games and hardware that are appearing on the market. We love the stuff, but that's not to say there aren't certain things that miss the mark. So in this video, we're going to cover the worst things to happen in sim racing in 2024. Kicking off then with arguably the most talked about sim racing story of the year, and for the wrong reasons, Fanatec.
I mean, we can talk now because we know that the company has been saved, as far as we understand, with Corsair.
Which is one of the best things of the year in context.
Yes, so we've talked about that in the best of the year video, which is separate to this one.
You can watch it by clicking the card there.
Or in the description, or...
We're going to go with there.
Yeah, okay.
And there.
But for a long time, it wasn't clear, right?
Yeah.
There was, all of a sudden, everybody on X was an expert in German Staurug regulations, right? Which is just not true. They're not, and neither am I. And then there was all sorts of, because they're a publicly listed company, N.AG, named after some sort of Star Wars reference, published these always on a Friday at like 10 p.m. at night or 11 p.m. at night, sort of putting it under the carpet when no one's around, press releases or updates via the investor portal, because it's a legal mandate, right? And it was, even they were quite bizarre at times. Oh, we're going to be taken over by Corsair. Oh, but this other thing's happened, and this general meeting's done this, and da-da-da. Meanwhile, former CEO and founder Thomas Jackemeyer, who had been ousted because supposedly the banks wanted rid because they owed too much, there was a lot of debt, new HQ and all this. This is complicated. He was supposedly publishing in German on forums, but he definitely hired a PR agency who did issue press releases as well. So that's all a big mess, wasn't it?
It was a big mess, and from a consumer's perspective, first of all, you had the issues that Fanatec had anyway, which was not great customer service, people ordering things and then them not arriving, massive issues, delays, lack of communication, and this just was compounded by all of this news that Fanatec were maybe going under, because lots of people have Fanatec setups and ecosystems and they rely on these things, so when they thought Fanatec may no longer exist, it was a pretty devastating time for just a lot of sim racing fans. It left them concerned.
And also it was very tricky to report on because it had to be pragmatic. There was a lot of speculation. There was a lot of opinions masked as facts.
Yeah.
They weren't really facts, they were just subjective sayings. And if you could say, okay, this has happened, this is a press release, we don't know more, we've asked for comment, even that wasn't enough for some people on the internet, right? And then there were, some people made really interesting videos, but they were shareholders, right? So it's very, very tricky to wade through all of that. And the net result is, thankfully now, I think if you're a Fanatec customer, we're not going to say that companies, or any company ever is going to be perfect, right? They might have issues in the future, but they're in the space now where they can build upon a company that has a big distribution network and has big customer service policies, and hopefully they improve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say we'll lift the mood by moving away from German law and towards friendly, sunny racing games, but then I remember this is the worst of the year. So it doesn't, no mood will be lifted, just anger. I'm going to say that one of the most disappointing full game releases this year, not because it's terrible, but because it just didn't live up to the hype. Oh, well, we can discuss this. Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown. Because I am such a big fan of the original Test Drive games, and I had such high expectations because of how long this had been in development, the little slice we've tried before the game's released. I was getting very excited, the showrooms, all this stuff, and then
Yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes that I'm not gone back to it, right?
Yeah, and the server issues as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, the server, there's two issues really. There's one that this was an online-only MMO, and when you're an online-only MMO, you better be damn sure that the servers are working, right?
Especially on day one.
Yeah, and they had a beta, and I spoke to someone who was working on the project at an event, and they were like, yeah, no, it's going to be fine at launch because we've had a beta on PC and on console and PlayStation, and we think it's all sorted. Well, it didn't work for like a week, but the problem being, in that week, was early access for those who spent near $100 for the version.
Yeah.
So you couldn't play the game that you're paying a lot of money for, and you could keep trying every day, and sometimes the server might work.
Yeah.
And then the reimbursement of that is in-game Porsche.
Enough said, I would say.
Yeah. And then even when it did work, full of graphical issues, which I can normally see through, right? So I don't really mind that per se. But for me, actually, I just find the racing a bit dull.
Yeah, and that's not what you want.
The biggest crime.
That's not what you want from a good racing game.
Of all the complaints about it, it's actually a bit dull.
Speaking of dull racing, Formula One.
Oh.
It's not been a great year for Formula One.
In the virtual sense.
In the virtual sense. Yeah, it's been a great year now that Max is no longer dominating, not because of that, but because it's exciting and we don't know who's going to win. And 8 different drivers have won, not Perez. Everyone else in the top team has won 2 races each. But in the virtual world, it's been a kind of disastrous year for F1 on multiple levels.
Yes, we could talk about, let's just touch on F1 24, the official driving video game, which was, I don't think it was terrible. I think if you're a Formula 1 YouTuber and you rely on that game to make content, that is unfortunate because it wasn't the best, but it was certainly flawed.
And there was toxic chat about it at launch, so even if the
100%.
game's not as bad as you think, if it was the first ever F1 game you played, you'd probably love it, and it's good.
Especially if you're playing with a gamepad.
Yeah, but you're comparing it to F1 23, maybe 21, and without the story mode, there were just certain things about it that were a letdown.
Now, they did improve the driver career, and it's not a thorough going over, but it is an improvement, and I would welcome to see that. But my team is once again jettisoned. I don't understand F1 World. I understand it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
No breaking point. I do actually, as much as the hardcore player would be like, I don't want the story mode, it's actually really good fun.
Yeah, and I understand why they're taking 2 years to develop it. It makes sense, fine. But it's still not there, right?
But just when you compare it 1 year to the next.
Exactly.
And then the main thing was, in the early days, the handling seemed a bit weird, so you could drive over curbs too easily. I mean, that's been rectified, but even then the handling still feels not quite as planted as 23. So you have to sort of think, this is a retrograde step, unfortunately.
And then very recently we had the news that F1 Manager is not going to come back again in 2025. And I thought F1 Manager 24 was actually the best of the series so far. I thought it wasn't a complete revolution, but it was a really solid evolution of a good platform that was enjoyable in the first place, but was flawed. And I think they've improved in a lot of areas. It's still not perfect. It's still, had certain, I would say, imbalances when I was playing through the first time, which meant it was way too easy to take your team to the top too quickly, but it was a fun, solid game. And just as you feel like they could be building some momentum back up, it's just not worked out.
Yeah, this is a sad story. So we're not saying F1 Manager 24 is the worst of the year.
No, I thought it was good.
That's the final one.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think the series is always hamstrung a bit by the license because they can only do so much.
Yeah.
If you have an unlicensed management game, you can have I think, more feature-rich thing, with managing sponsorship a bit better. I don't know, drivers becoming ill or something, and maybe that's not possible with the F1 license. But if you look at it outside of a traditional management game as a really fun experience to play, and you spend ages playing one season as opposed to spending 15 hours going through multiple, it's wonderful. I really like it, and I think it's really sad that it didn't clearly, we believe, sell enough to justify the final release, because I believe the contract was going to expire next year anyway, and they've just sort of brought that forward.
Exactly, which is disappointing. And another disappointing thing, F1 Sim Racing. Remember that drama? That feels like ages ago.
Well, it kicked off last year as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing, 2023. This is formerly F1 esports, right?
Yes.
This is the pinnacle in terms of viewership for virtual racing, because it's on the main Formula 1 YouTube channel. Didn't see Formula 1 do much promotion for it otherwise, let's say, and they had to set up new social channels because it was renamed to F1 Sim Racing, and then that means you don't have many followers and all that stuff. But there's not too much we can say about this publicly, but other than it seems like it's been a bit of a mess. We didn't know when the races were going to happen.
That's an understatement.
And it was an extremely fleeting season.
And there was a lot of, I think, there was a bit of toxicity, a bit of tension there between various parties, and it was just ugly. The whole thing was ugly, and it's not even just a bad reflection on F1 esports or F1 sim racing. It's just a bad reflection on sim racing in general.
Agreed.
And the relationship between the Formula 1 and the sim racing world.
Yeah, it looks like a disaster to me.
Yeah.
This is the series that you get 500,000 views for a race, right?
Yeah.
You have to make it spot on. The fact that it didn't have much promotion in the run-up because we believe allegedly that even the teams didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes, and there was all these draft calendars that changed. This needs to be rectified for the next time. Sounds positive at the minute, but this was a dark year for virtual racing in single-seaters, I think.
If you enjoy watching sim racing content on YouTube or just general gaming videos, perhaps you want to have a go at creating some for yourself. This is where Elgato steps in. It has an incredible range of streaming and video production products like capture cards, webcams, microphones, cam links, green screens, anything you can think of that's going to help you with your video production and streaming, Elgato probably has a product. Just make sure you check out the affiliate link down in the description below. By doing so, you'll be able to buy those products, and also Traxion will get a little bit of assistance and support from that as well. Now, one topic we touched upon in the best of the year, which is another video that we did, which you can check out and we put a card to earlier. We talked about Le Mans Ultimate because it has a lot of potential. It feels great to drive. There are so many really good positives, but I also listed about 75 caveats. And it therefore has to also go in the worst of the year because it's very uncertain at the moment and it's very unfinished.
Yeah, is it the game that goes in the worst of the year, or is it the company that goes in the worst?
I think it's the overall situation because you've got this game that could be great and it's got the potential to be great and it's being worked on, but there's more redundancies at motorsport games recently, there's more uncertainty,
well, the company's
for sale, and suddenly we're going, okay, we've got this amazing thing that's not amazing yet but will be once it's finished, and now the worry is, will it be finished?
Well, the DLC will be finished. That's all we can say, right?
Some good DLC's already finished, but
and this is DLC during an early access period and very expensive DLC. I think. And yes, the cars and tracks are exacting in their detail, but I think it was, my opinion here, a strategic error to prioritise the co-op mode, which was different and unique and could be really cool. But it almost feels like that was a decision, and I could be wrong here, to appease potential investors as this cool new tech we've got that no one else is doing, as opposed to being able to spin up your own server and build leagues and communities, because I think ultimately leagues and communities, especially in early access, are going to power your game on and maybe buy the DLC.
I find it hard to judge the decisions that have been made behind the scenes on this because it's easy to look at it from a consumer versus a company trying to survive and maybe trying to avoid redundancies, and that's impossible.
And we are very sympathetic with that.
And we don't know what's going on at MSG anymore. We used to be very familiar with the Traxion story, but that's for another video. That I always find it difficult because you never truly know. But either way, it's not looking great.
No,
regardless.
Clearly, there were decisions that had to be made for crisis time,
which is the DLC release. We think.
Yeah, we think so. Yeah, but
quick money.
Now, we hope that a buyer. I hope. That a buyer is found for the company. I know there's a lot of people on Reddit and X that they want it to burn to the ground, but I don't think it's simple that Studio 397 appears as if by magic and carries it on. It's all intertwined
it's one
and all
company,
very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Motorsport Games is largely Studio 397.
Motorsport Games gets bought or it goes under, basically.
Shall we do some honourably disappointing mentions?
Honourably disappointing mentions. Well, I would say that there's a lawsuit against Ubisoft at the minute that alleges all sorts of things.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, about the first Crew game, which is from many years ago, which went offline. Now it's an open world MMO, like Test Drive Unlimited is, and the big concern is, well, when not enough people play the game, buy in-game currency anymore, you switch off the servers. It's perfectly logical. Problem being, that had a whole single-player campaign that can never ever be played again.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't mind if multiplayer servers go offline, right? But you've got a boxed product on a console, can't play it again. It's a weird one.
Horrendous, because if you're a fan of those types of games, and you might have been always wanting to pick it up later, and you've not got around to it yet, and it'll still be good, right?
Yeah. So this potential court case, if it goes forward, sets a precedent for the future. It's like movies are always preserved, but why not games? They're a really important part of our culture.
Yeah, we never get enough time to play them as much as we'd like to.
That's true. Yeah.
I would say another honourable mention for disappointment this year. It's kind of a general feeling towards Assetto Corsa Competizione. Now, the Nordschleife was great. It was amazing. We've not had much since then, if anything, since then.
No new content.
There's been nothing.
There's
some updates, but the game is not in the best state it's ever been in. I think the BOP is a bit off. There's some handling issues.
Some weird physics.
Which is often the case with ACC, but the team are on it and fixing it. But right now, because of all the attention on AC Evo, it feels like ACC is kind of stuck in limbo, and there's a lot of frustration around it, but not a lot of help and progress. So therefore, I think it's kind of dying.
It feels that way, but officially it isn't.
No.
So
true.
But it's neither is it alive.
But as a big fan of ACC, I can understand why, because the focus on AC Evo, but some people are huge on ACC still today.
Hopefully it's all worked out. People will forget this moment in time because they're all playing the next Assetto Corsa, right?
Yeah.
That will satisfy them and more people.
Another honourable mention that I need to say, Forza Motorsport. And I don't even have a specific argument.
I mean, they're trying.
There's lots of updates coming, but I jumped on this game again fairly recently for recording a video I was doing, and I was just like, I was expecting it to be better and feel more intrinsically linked in terms of the car and the road and the graphics, and I just thought it would be a better game by now. And I'd played it, okay, I'm talking about a small slice here, I didn't have a full couple of days experience playing career mode, but I was just so disappointed. It felt like just as much disappointment as day one.
It's still not for me.
So that's just a general.
Yeah. By the way, if you like Forza Motorsport, let us know in the comments why that is. I feel like that game is made smothered in hubris because I feel like it's almost like a team there that thinks, we're doing this amazing thing.
Yeah.
And actually should just go play some other games that are similar on maybe a rival console that's a lot better.
100%.
Yeah.
Is there any other things that you can think of for this year, Tom?
Well, there are a lot of disappointing things this year. Just generally, I think it's just been a bit
Yeah.
But there has been rays of light, and we think 2025 is going to be amazing.
And Traction came back in 2024.
That was a highlight. But that was a highlight. We're talking about worst bits.
We've already filmed
the worst bit was at the start of the year when Traction didn't exist. Now we're back.
Yeah, good for us, hopefully good for you guys. If you're watching this video, I'd like to think it is, and if you've enjoyed it, please do leave us a like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss more of our videos, and hopefully we'll still be around next year. I'm sure we will be, but it's been great. You can also join the discussion on Discord as well. Information is in the description below. But until next time, from myself and Tom, thank you very much and have a great day.